Now that we have some of the background information about core and fringe vocabulary and types of vocabulary to focus on during instruction, let's talk about some of the communication partner strategies that we can use to teach that vocabulary to our students. We're going to begin with the strategy of modeling. Modeling is the practice of using an AAC system to demonstrate how it works and how to use it to communicate. It involves pointing to, so if you're using a paper-based board, these strategies apply no matter what type of technology you're using. If you're using a paper-based board, you can point to the symbols, or if you're using a tablet-based system, you can activate the symbols on the AAC device. Or if you're even using a battery-powered system, you can activate the symbols, showing the user how the words are organized and how they're used within the system. I underlined the word demonstrate because we are demonstrating for them how to use the system. We are not putting a demand on them that they must imitate us, that they must perform, that they must comply. We're not making the assumption that what we're showing them as a potential of what they could say matches exactly what it is that they do want to say. So we're just demonstrating. It's really helpful to think of this as language immersion. If you were going to learn German, the best way to do that would be to go live in Germany and be immersed in the language. We have a tendency to provide a student with a device, put it in front of them, and expect that they're just going to know how to use it automatically. But they really need a lot of immersion and exposure, and even sometimes some explicit teaching of language to be able to use the device to communicate with us. And for some students, that can take a long time. I like the analogy of a language bucket. Every student has a language bucket that we're trying to fill up with as much demonstration as possible. And once that bucket is full, it will spill over. We don't really know how big the bucket is that we're trying to fill up. Some students may only need 50 exposures to a word before they start getting the meaning and start expressing it. And some students may need 500. So we just keep filling that bucket up until we can get some spillover from it. It's also very important to understand that receptive language, the understanding what a word means, comes before expressive language, before a student's going to use it. So you may see that a student, the light bulb's starting to click, they might understand it, but they're not expressively using it with you yet. That's part of language development. We're going to watch this video by Rachel Madel. I think she gives a really good explanation on how to get started with modeling.
When we're thinking about how children learn to use AAC for communication, it's helpful to think about AAC as another language. If I wanted to learn how to speak Italian, the fastest way for me to learn would be to go live in Italy for a few months and be fully immersed in the language. The fastest way to get kids using AAC is to show them how by immersing them in the language of AAC and modeling words on their device. If you're new to the concept of modeling, let's talk about what this looks like. First, we need to find a highly motivating word to practice. This should be something your child is really excited to talk about. For example, this could be the word go if your child likes movement, or the word eat if they're really motivated by food. The next step is to model this word on the AAC system by pressing the button as you're talking about it. You could say something like, "It looks like you want to go outside," all while modeling go on the device. Pick one or two routines to start modeling this word, and then you can expand to even more activities. If the word is go, that means you're modeling it when you go to the car, when you go to school, when your child goes to the trampoline, when you make the train go. Think of as many opportunities to model the word go throughout your child's day. Once you start feeling more comfortable, expand by adding another word into the same activities you've been practicing. The key is to start slow and build the habit of modeling into your family's routine. Here are some other important reminders about modeling. The first is to model without the expectation that your child will say anything back to you. For some children, it takes lots and lots of modeling before they start using their AAC system on their own. The second reminder is to be careful how many questions you're asking. We're typically really curious to know what a child wants and needs, but it's not necessary to overwhelm them with questions. We can simply model language as a way to encourage and invite communication without demanding it. Lastly, be sure to get your whole family involved. This not only helps increase the amount of words a child sees modeled, but it can also help an AAC user be more excited to use their system. If everyone in the family uses AAC to communicate, it normalizes AAC as another communication modality. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and go to rachelmadel.com for even more resources like this.
So you notice some of the things that she mentioned in the video, the language immersion, even for students who are motivated by food or movement. She took it back to the related core vocabulary words: eat, go, building things into routines. If you have a student who's an AAC user that's not using their device very well yet, this is always going to be the place we come back to when we try to investigate what's going on, how much modeling has been done. If it hasn't been modeled in the classroom, then that's where we need to start. It's just like any other skill. We need to provide some demonstration, examples, teaching before we can expect a student to use it. If we haven't been teaching and modeling, then there's no way we can reasonably expect that the student will use the device. So what kinds of things can you model? You can use the different core words and some of the fringe words to model different communication functions. We tend to be really good about modeling requesting, but that's not the only communication function. Commenting, describing, asking questions, rejecting things, making a joke, telling a secret, telling a story. There are lots of different reasons that we communicate. A very fun exercise to do is to take out your cell phone and choose a best friend, a spouse, whoever you communicate with a lot, and look at your text messages and identify what the function of that text message is. When we've done this exercise with other groups, rarely are people requesting. They're sharing information. They're asking a question. They're asking for clarification. They're giving someone directions. It's very rarely requesting. You can model in different classroom activities that aren't necessarily academic. So snack, the toileting routine, recess, any kind of, a craft, or things that are academic during your math lesson, your reading lesson. Gail Van Tatenhove has a good ratio for how to model core and fringe vocabulary and balance that. 4 core words to every 1 fringe word. I don't think it's realistic to count on your fingers, oh, how many have I done? Has it been 4? But just be mindful of this ratio and try to balance. I'm leaning a little bit more on core than I am on fringe. Or when you plan your lesson, think about what kinds of words you can model and think of the 4 core and then maybe a couple of fringe words that could go in with that. Thinking of snack as the activity. I might be able to model eat as a core word, more as a core word, want as a core word, and help as a core word, and then crackers as that 1 fringe word that I'm going to mix in there. Also, try to model at least 1 symbol per spoken sentence. So you don't need to model every single word that you are speaking to a student. But if I say a sentence like, we're going to go outside, I might just model go, that 1 symbol for the whole spoken sentence. You can also use a core word of the week or a core word of the month approach, where you pick a core word and you really focus on that heavily in the classroom. Some people really like this for planning purposes. One of the drawbacks is that we might not cycle through quick enough on some different core words that we could be practicing. So I've seen some really ambitious people even do like a core word of the day approach so that they're cycling through and giving exposure to lots and lots of words. But there are some students that do respond if they need lots and lots of models. Modeling that word for a week or 2 or 3 can really give them the input that they need. So just think about your classroom and how you can best use that approach. We get lots of questions about programming words into devices. And there's some different schools of thought about that. I like to stick with the F's. So you shouldn't be spending lots and lots and lots of time programming devices. They come with very robust vocabularies. Lots of the words are already there. What you may need to do is program friends, family, and favorites. So those F's. If there's a word not in the device, there's not necessarily going to be every single word. You can model spelling on the keyboard because that's the most autonomous way to communicate, would be able to learn to type and spell. There's also a strategy that we're not going to dive into in this module called descriptive teaching, where you can choose other words to get at the same concept. So if the word precipitation is in your lesson, you might be able to use words like wet come down to describe rain. So that's the descriptive teaching strategy. But you can also model the use of spelling and word prediction for students. Even if they don't know how to do that yet, modeling that can give them the input to learn how to potentially do that. We're going to watch another video here. What I like about this video is this, you can tell, is a real classroom, a real teacher, real students. So it's not kind of in that ideal sterile environment where there's not real things happening. She has a core board that she has made on her wall in her classroom, but we have access to and provide teachers posters for modeling. It's not going to be quite as large as this, but you have access to posters. You can print low-tech visuals to do this. I mean, those symbols that she used, she just printed on whole pieces of paper and attached them to the wall. So a teacher that's leading a lesson can model on a poster while the students have their devices. Maybe the paraprofessionals are sitting with the students and helping to model on their actual devices. This is why we've tried to put a tiered system in the district of the poster matching what many of the students are using on their devices, so that if they see you do that, they might be able to imitate it on their device. But this is a real classroom, and I just really like the way that she does this modeling.
Yes! Thumbs up! Today is going to be a good day. Okay, are you ready? Guess what? Guess what? We got something. But we do not know what in it.
Again.
Wait a second. Wait. Oh, what do I have? What did we get? I didn't. What should I do? I should break it open. You think I should break it open? You think I should open it? And should I take out whatever is inside? Ooh, it's so exciting! Habina, sit down. You want to listen? Go sit down. I'll bring it to you.
Me.
Okay, give me the two. What could it be? What could it be?
So what I really like about that video is it's a real classroom. You hear the walkie-talkie go off. The one student gets up and walks to the front of the room, but you can see that she's doing some really nice things. She's not demanding that the students imitate her, that they say anything in return. In fact, a couple times you hear some students talk, but not very much. But she's providing them lots of input. She's not modeling every single word she's saying. She seems comfortable with modeling. So some sentences she is modeling 2, 3, 4 words, but some of them she's just modeling one. She's sticking to those core words, in, out, what. She's modeling different functions, asking questions about what's in the bag, making a comment, validating a student's response. Somebody says something about breaking it open and she models, oh, you want me to break it open? So she just does a really nice job of modeling in a fun activity. It's a mystery bag activity. When we've asked teachers in the past if this looks like something realistically that they could do in their classroom, most of them say yes. They could incorporate an activity like this. They could model like this. Most teachers have that pointer that they can use to model on a board. So it's just a really nice reflection of what can actually happen in a classroom. So before you move on to the next module, I want you to take some time to practice. And there's another slide that I'll show you to help you think about that. But think of a routine in your classroom. It could be your morning meeting. It could be your snack time. It could be toileting. It could be your math lesson. It could be a leisure activity. Whatever you have access to as far as AAC. So if you need to print the low-tech core board, that's paper-based, you can model on that. If you have access to a robust dynamic device, either one of your students leaves it at school or you have access to it in your classroom, you can practice on that. If you have the poster in the classroom, you can practice on that. But I want you to practice speaking the words that you would usually use during the routine while also modeling language on the device or the board. You do not have to model every word. You can stay, if you're on a tablet, you can stay on the home page. That's where a lot of that core vocabulary is on the home page. So don't get lost in folders if that's overwhelming to you. Focus on core words, focus on that strategy of one word modeled per the entire spoken sentence until you get more comfortable with it and you can grow and expand. Thinking of snack time, you might say, I'm going to just focus on the word eat. That's on the homepage for many devices, or it's on the homepage of a core board. So maybe you just focus on modeling eat and think about, what do I typically say to my students? Another good strategy to use when modeling is to not assume that we know what a student wants to say. So sometimes I will use phrases like I wonder, or it looks like maybe. Like, it looks like maybe you want to eat while modeling eat. I wonder if you want to eat these goldfish, instead of just assuming that we know for sure. Or maybe they do reach and you say, I see you reaching. I think that means you want to eat this snack. On this next slide, this is an example. This image actually links to the blank template of how you can plan out what you might model as you practice. So maybe our activity is calendar. So what are some words that we can use to initiate or request recurrence for something to happen again? So I can use go again, my turn, or more. Those would be words you could model in that activity. Words to negate or express cessation, that you want something to stop. Not that, different, all done, stop. Associated nouns, this can be more of the fringe vocabulary, the months, the days, the weather, the seasons. Some of the describing words that you might use during calendar time: big, little, up, down, hot, cold, on, off, colors. Who, what does the action? It might be I or me, you, he, she, it, that. Even looking at the action words in that green circle, you can use verbs like count, sing, take turn, put on, take off. Is there a more general way to say the action? So that descriptive teaching strategy. If it's several navigational hits to get to the word sing, you could maybe use go for count and sing, or do for count or take turn, because those are on the homepage. Feeling words like don't like, boring, fun. Associated questions: what day, what for the weather, what do. You may not model all these words, but it gives you some ideas to think about. You might just say, I'm going to focus on that heart and model like and don't like today when we do the calendar activity. I like the weather, I do not like the weather. So before you practice, think about your activity and plan out some of these words that you might be able to model. Again, you might just pick, I'm going to model all done and stop during this activity, and practice through the things you would typically say while also activating one symbol per spoken sentence at least. Focus on core vocabulary during that activity. Once you've practiced, think about these discussion questions. How did it feel for you to model? Was it uncomfortable? Did it feel easy? Did it feel like something that maybe is hard right now, but with practice you could get better at? How might this look in your real classroom interactions? And why do you think that modeling is so important? One thing that I want to stress is trying to go all or nothing can be really, really difficult. The ideal situation is that we model all day long in all of our communication interactions with our students. But teaching is hard, and education is challenging to work in right now. You don't have a lot of planning time. That can be a lot to commit to. That can be our end goal. But let's start small. If we can commit to modeling during at least one classroom activity, once you get comfortable with that and confident, take it to another activity. Now we're modeling in 2 classroom activities. Now we're getting good at that. Let's look at 3 classroom activities. Think of ways that you can start small. What can you do today? And as you get more confident and comfortable, work towards that end goal of modeling all day long in all of your communication interactions with your students. But if you try to start with the all day long, it's kind of like a New Year's resolution. If we start with, I'm going to lose 20 pounds and I'm going to exercise every single day, a lot of people fail when they try to do it that way. But if we say, I'm going to try to exercise 1 time a week and then see if after a few weeks I can get to 2, after a few weeks can I get to 3, I'm going to drink more water, set small goals as you build up towards that end goal. Once you have practiced and thought about these discussion questions, check back in and we will talk about the next communication partner strategy.